Welcome, everyone. I'm really happy to be here and share my perspective on some of the crazy stuff that has been happening in space between the coding and AI. Do we have a slide? Yeah, but first, why software composing? Well, to be quite honest, it sounds significantly more sophisticated than vibe coding. But seriously, I'm also a musician at heart, and it resonates also with how I think about this topic. So I think it really represents the value of the tools that I'll be showing for you today. I'm Tomek. I'm a founding engineer at StackBlitz, and I work on product UX at Bolt.new. You can also find me in most of the usual online spots as Sulca. So today I want to share my experiences and perspectives on the whole vibe coding thing and why I find it so useful, no matter if you're a technical or non-technical person. So first, let me tell you a little bit about the history and the tool that I spent pretty much most of the last decade building. And this will get really nerdy really fast, but only for a moment. So if you've been around the JavaScript ecosystem long enough, at some point you've probably come across these either simpler or more complex advanced online sandboxes. Some of the popular ones are JSBean, CodePen, or StackBlitz. Usually how they work is that you either have some custom in-browser bundler that gives you a simpler but a single stack really setup, or they connect to a remote virtual machine where you can run more stuff, but for the price of having to pay for that compute, that CPU, that memory, and all that stuff. In StackBlitz, we've built something else that is quite unique, really. We've basically created our own mini operating system called Web Containers that has a file system, a virtualized network layer, and other things like that. And it all runs client-side. The full runtime is really in the browser. So, for instance, if you go to node.new, you can see how it quickly boots up. And let's see, you can run commands. You can execute actual Node.js scripts, and even install dependencies. Finally, because this is a full runtime environment, you can even run development server. Again, all client-side in your browser. So this is quite mind-boggling from a technical point of view, because you can basically run backend in the front-end. But it's also really cool from the reliability perspective, because we can scale up to hundreds of thousands and even millions of developers using the platform without really a dent in our infrastructure. We mostly store the text files of your sources. OK, but now, while all these innovations were happening for developers, another technical revolution was brewing. And some time ago, the topic of LLMs and AI broke through to the general population in the form of ChatGPT. Because it's all a website, and you don't have to install and configure anything, it gained a lot of popularity very quickly, very similarly to StackBlitz in the JavaScript world, actually. And it allowed people to prompt and get back text, and later also images, and in other tools also videos. And one of these artifacts can also be code. But the code itself is not really that valuable. It's all about what it does when it runs, right? So it needs a runtime. And it just so happens that we have one. So this is how Bolt.new was born. And with this, we leave the nerdland and come back to the, let's call it, popular technology. So let me show you how this works. I'll start with a very simple prompt. And this is actually how it gets funny already, because Bolt tries to interpret every single thing you send it as best as it can. So if you leave the prompt vague enough, it will get creative. At first, it comes up with a plan, then it sets up the dependencies and starts creating files. I've obviously sped up the process because it can take up to 2, 3, sometimes 4 minutes. And I really don't have enough anecdotes for that. But yeah, anyways, because we've asked for a mobile app, it has actually created an Expo project. We can preview it still in the browser, but it's way more fun and realistic if you use Expo Go for this. So as soon as we scan the QR code, it will create a bundle and show us the app. Thank you. So as I said before, it tries to squeeze as much information as possible from that initial prompt, so the result is not your usual hello world. If you've never tried it before, I fully understand if you don't believe that this is the actual result. But so after this talk, please go ahead and try it on your own. We have free tokens available for the first users, so you can just try it, and that's the result, more or less. Like, the results may vary, but it's kind of crazy. And in fact, these results are so valuable to folks around the world that recently we've just hit 5 million users on the platform. And by the way, this is where the runtime architecture comes into place and really shines, because we never had any scaling issues. Every environment basically runs on the user's browser, so still no problems there. Okay, but I want to share with you 2 cases that I think will help frame how this is applicable to the real life. So this is the StackBits team, minus 3 people. We're not that big of a team. But because we're fully remote, we don't meet a lot in real life. But we regularly do company offsites to spend some time outside of Zoom. We just met this month, actually. There were 30 of us. And to be honest, in some sense, it reminded me of a school trip, maybe because of the around 30 people group. And for instance, we had a lot of activities where we had to be on time on a bus, and there was one responsible adult who was making sure that we're all accounted for. So our friend Mallory always had a paper sheet with the full list and had to mentally tick off everyone who is present and who is missing. And of course, that made me think there should be an app for that. So without too much planning ahead, honestly, I jumped into Bolt. So the prompt can look something like this. I described the situation. We're going to an offsite. I want to build a mobile app that will help me make sure all the people from the team are accounted for. We'll need a list of people, name and an avatar, and a checkbox, so to know where the person is present. And I also want to have a summary of how many people are we missing. These are my only requirements for now. They just seem the most obvious. So Bolt is doing its job. And as this time the prompt was more specific than previously, the initial version of the app, as you will see in a moment, is very much exactly what I asked for. So let's test it on mobile. And yeah, basically it works. But I already see some places for improvement. First of all, the way it's implemented, you have to click on that little dot on the right, which is an unnecessary small target to hit. So let's fix it. So I want the full person item list to be clickable. As you can see, I'm not even that precise with the vocabulary here, but it should be okay. This time it's actually real time, haven't sped it up. And yes, this works. Now you can see this here, that the whole area is clickable. But now I have another idea of how to make this work even better. So the idea is that when someone is checked in, they should go to the end of the list, because that will make the UI clearer. And as you can see, this works, but it's quite jarring, to be honest. I think some of you already have an idea of what we're doing next. So let's animate that change, so the user has a better idea of what's going on. As you can see with the question mark, this time I was a bit unsure whether this will work for some reason, but let's see. And the animation looks way better on the actual device, so let's test it there. And yeah, nice. Looks like it works as advertised. Thank you. Yeah, it wasn't that eloquent prompting on my part, as you've seen. It's all bold. OK, I spelled you the details, but since then I realized that there is no way to add new people. So now each person with the app should be able to write their own name and contact information to generate a QR code for the organizer to scan. Things like that, so they can also call them very easily. More improvements, and so on. So you can see we're running this cycle of prompt, play around, get an idea for an improvement, and prompt again, play around, have another idea, and so on. And this is really why it's called vibe coding. You don't need to have a fully specified app or feature in your head, but in fact, if you think about it in your professional environment, we also often, the specs are not ideal, and only when the implementation shows up on the screen, it's when the shareholders realize, oh, we should actually add something here, we're missing something there, we should change this or that. So here we're just iterating way faster. And what is really cool, besides how fast you can build it, that this can be, quote unquote, just prototype, but look how much more interactive and lifelike it's than a typical, even clickable, but traditional prototype. In Bolt, you can also very easily connect a database, making this basically a prototype with infinite value states, as realistic as it can be. We also have several other integrations, making it possible to build actual production app with it. In fact, a quick plug, literally today in less than 6 hours, we're starting a biggest hackathon ever. We're working with Guinness Book of World Records and everything for people with ideas, but not necessarily a programming background, although developers are invited as well. You can find all the details at hackathon.dev. And last I heard, we had already 50,000 participants signed in, so this is a crazy week. Anyways, back to our professional setting. here's a little tip. If you make that more elaborate prototype that I've just shown, maybe more elaborate than that, when you're satisfied with it, you can ask Bolt to write you a spec that you will bring to your team together with that lifelike, super convincing demo to break down into tasks. Because Bolt knows already everything about what you prompted, including like the changes, the adjustments, and you can make it as detailed as it has to be. Okay, let's take a quick breather. And case number 2. This will be a quick one, but hits close to home. So in Bolt, when a runtime error happens, because we control the whole environment, Bolt recognizes this and shows you a dialog with an attempt fix button. So if user's app breaks somewhere, it will show. Now, sometimes the error is quite tricky, or occasionally even not an actual error, but a more complex issue that it would be best if user actually understood what's happening behind the scenes. So we have a really good support docs, but as the saying goes, nobody's inclined to read the manual. And the users will rather try clicking the attempt fix button like 10 times and waste tokens than go and just visit the documentation. So I figured if that happens more than, let's say, 2 or 3 times, we should bring the necessary information to the user. So now the help button would appear and fetch the relevant docs dynamically, again using AI. And while we're at it, we should also have this behavior available on demand, even if there is no runtime error. So here's the kicker. This part is not an actual feature yet. It's a prototype that I've built for my team in Bolt to kick off some discussions and scoping. So this might be confusing, but this is Bolt running a part of Bolt interface, really. So if I were to summarize what vibe coding, aka software composing, is about, or where the practical value is, it's an amazing opportunity for people who can't code to build almost anything they want, not being confined to things like the typical CMS and such. And they can build also helpful utilities, personal utilities, something that up until now was only possible for developers. Some of the more entrepreneurial ones are building actual business on top of it. And in our professional setup, above all, it's an efficiency booster. I use it for internal tools, but primarily for scoping and for communication. So prototypes, proof of concepts, and so on. And these are the things that everyone on your team can now build. And of course, that brings me to the mandatory question, will AI replace developers anytime soon? Let me answer this way. Even in Bolt, we're still looking for new, good JavaScript developers. We have like 10 positions open right now, so no. So that's all I have for today. Big thanks to App.js Conf team for organizing this awesome event, and to the Expo team also for helping us build this Bolt Expo integration that works really magical. So see you around, and let's grab some coffee.